Hello, welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match preview show as Villa take on Brentford at the unreasonable time of 8:15 at Villa Park tomorrow night. That is Wednesday. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by the Athletics Aston Villa correspondent, Jacob Tanswell. And this show is, of course, sponsored by Luke Roper. If you want to get 20% off everything that Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off everything, including the coat that I'm hoping they're going to send me this week that I've asked for. So I'm hoping to get one of their new coats very, very soon because, quite frankly, it's getting cold down Villa Park. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. You're talking about getting a free coat. I've been seeing you've got a personal cameraman now following you around.
Yesterday at the market, taking photos with his professional camera. That's
was that planned? Was that photo shoot planned, or was it?
No, he just always has his camera with him. So we went for a few drinks yesterday, me and his girlfriend Simon, and me and my partner, and James Rushton as well, after we'd done some recording for Claret and Blue, and just always has his camera with him. And he said he had a roll of film that he wanted to use, so he just took some photos. And his girlfriend took a photo of him taking the photo, and I thought I'd utilise that opportunity to get that photo on social media.
It looked great, yeah. I haven't checked out the market.
You need to go.
I need to go.
Best market in the UK. Best market in the UK.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I've been to a few. Best Christmas market in the UK by a mile as well.
By a mile, okay. I'll have to check that out when there's an evening free.
Yeah, it is, of course, the ticket derby tomorrow. Tomorrow night, UK Rut says Brentford are lowering ticket prices. Villa are raising prices. So the Bees deserve to win this match. I wouldn't disagree with what you're saying, but I hope that isn't what happens tomorrow night because, quite frankly, Jacob, Aston Villa feel a little bit desperate for 3 points.
They do, yeah. I think it's got into the territory where it's just any needs must, really, in terms of a win. I thought Crystal Palace would be this type of game where Villa would ultimately squeeze out 3 points, but that was a struggle as well. And going back to Brentford, I think they're a really, really good team. They're similar to Bournemouth in a way, in terms of they pose a really bad stylistic matchup for Villa because high pressing, counter press, their set plays, obviously they take advantage of and find margins of. And like we saw last year when they came to Villa Park, they look at one area of weakness at Villa and they really hammer it home. And 3 of their goals in a 9-minute spell came down, the right hand side of Villa's, through Reguilon. And although he won't be playing, Thomas Frank is fantastic at setting up teams, and they do punish you if you're not quite there in terms of confidence or physical levels as well. So yeah, it's going to be quite a nerve-wracking game, I think.
Yeah, it's a good news, bad news situation for Villa, this one. We'll start with the good news. Actually, it might not be good news, this. Brentford are very good at home and not been great away so far this season, Jacob.
No, they're fantastic at home, aren't they? They're the entertainers at home.
So many goals in their games.
Yeah, exactly. And, maybe it's obviously home form, it plays a part in things, but I think the way Brentford play as well, it's very ping-pong, it's very transitional. Maybe away from home, they're a bit more open. The other team's got a bit more intent to go for it, but they're still a really good team, and I think they carry a threat, at home and away. It's just that at home they're more used to the home comforts, aren't they? But they're in a really good position in the table, and I think Thomas Frank's fantastic. I actually saw Thomas Frank in a pub, and he lives about 300 yards away from my girlfriend. So I do like him. I think he's a really, really good coach, really good guy actually. But you're hoping for a Villa win tomorrow.
I like him as well. You didn't join him for a drink? Which pub was it actually? Because I know Richmond pretty well.
He was in the Sheen way, Victoria. But he was with his assistant actually. And there's a Brentford cap by the entrance, so he's probably his local.
Okay, nice. Right. I said there was good news and bad news. The bad news is the goalkeeping situation for Villa, Jake. You were at Bodymore Heath today for Unai's pre-game press conference. I'm sure people have seen this, but for those who haven't, what did he have to say about the goalkeeper situation? Obviously, Emi Martinez has got a knock. Well, it's an injury. It's not even a knock. It's an injury.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually. I thought it would have been worse than it was. So in some ways, I do think it's quite a positive. I was expecting it to be out for 2 to 4 weeks. It turns out it's a hairline fracture, right? So, they will judge him. They were going to judge him this afternoon at training, see how it was. This is pure guess. There's no inside information. If I had to guess, I'd probably say he's injured for tomorrow.
No, Jacob.
But I think it's better than the diagnosis sounds better than I first feared. So even if he misses tomorrow's game, there's obviously a chance that he can be back for the games coming up. So at some point you've got to trust Robin Olsen or Joe Gaucho. I assume it's going to be Robin Olsen. He's 34, 35, 75 caps for Sweden. I know he's had a really quite difficult spell at Villa, but I actually thought he did okay when he came on against Chelsea. And in one-off games, I'm sure you can trust him. But Brentford are going to target him: long throws, set plays, corners, in swinging corners. I think there's going to be a real, as I said, nerve-wracking moments at Villa.
You say we've got to trust him, but in my experience since he's joined the club, I've seen very little that gives me that trust. And you're right, it's probably not the best opposition for him, because you're right, though. If he's playing, though, he will be a target. There's no doubt, because teams will know that when he plays, generally, Villa have, one, conceded a lot of goals, two, not won very, very many football matches. So Brentford will undoubtedly have a plan for that. You say it's just one game, potentially, and I take your point with that. But it's a game that they really, really need to win, and they've already looked pretty uncertain at the back in the last few weeks, especially with the aspect of playing out from the back. I just worry about playing out from the back. They try and play their normal way, Villa. Olsen in front of the whole end, bag of nerves in the whole end. That concerns me deeply.
This is where the whole end's got to sing "The World's Number 2," right, and just settle the nerves a little bit.
Sure, that's is it a compliment if they're singing "The World's Number 2" at you?
I think for him it would be. Yeah, I think it just calmed the nerves. But I actually think Villa, their build-up from the back, I don't think there's been much difference from last year. It's just when it does get into midfield, it completely breaks down, and they just don't know how to play through the thirds. I think what opposition teams have done very well, and I expect Brentford to do it, is they're forcing Villa into one side of the pitch. So they'll let Emmy Martinez have it, or Robin Olsen have it tomorrow. Then they'll let the closest centre back have it, and then they'll lock that side down. So the striker's body shape, like Nicholas Jackson when he almost scored, he will force the ball into one area of the pitch, and then they all press. And then it turns out that you have Luca Dean or Matty Cash right touchline on their back, and a force in a really small area with the ball, and they end up just clearing it long, and then comes back. So Villa have really struggled to get the ball through central areas in midfield. And Brentford are really good at that. They've got a great press, very counter-pressing. Most of their attacks are from winning the ball back in the final third. So it'll be a really difficult game. I do wonder whether it's the type of game where you just think, right, we're going to put into the channels for Watkins to run, especially if Brentford go man for man.
I mean, there's one here for you. I don't think it's aimed at me, from Barry Diablo, saying Olsen guaranteed to give you more grey hair, but believe that will be aimed at you rather than me.
Yeah, I've got a few greys coming through actually, which is
just one or two for me.
It's not great because I've just turned 24. So
24! I didn't know you were that young. Jeez, why is everyone so young nowadays? Get Global Greg back on. Add a bit of age to the show.
I was going to say, every time someone asks my age, I always say it, and it's always matter of surprise. So I think that says more about how I look at the moment than.
I think it's more about how you. It's more about how you carry yourself rather than how you would look. I say your persona, your writing persona. I would have had you as I'd had you as 27, 28. I think I knew you were relatively young, obviously because of the Bournemouth article the other week. But
I'll take that. But there are a few greys coming through. To be fair, Dan.
That's a slippery slope. Might have been coming through for a long time now. And obviously, that means you'll be in your 20s when I'm in my 40s. That's horrendous. That's a horrific feeling.
I can't possibly comment, but yeah, I'm luckily the youngest one out of the Villa pack. I know John Townley's a few months older than me, so
is he?
Yeah, believe it or not, I think it should be the other way around.
I mean, you spoke earlier about Robin Olsen like he was really old at 34 and then, or 35, however old he is. I was thinking that's 4 years younger than younger than me. There was there any? Villa obviously posted their social media post off the back of Emery's press conference. I only spoke about Martinez's fitness. They didn't mention anyone else's fitness. Did Unai have anything to say about anyone else? Anyone else?
Sure. I was actually not at the press conference today. I was
bloody hell, Jack.
I was doing a big Christmas read that will be out Christmas Eve today. So we decided that would be probably more conducive to my time than going to Emery's press conferences. But he said a little bit on transfer news, and it's the same as he would always say. As we know, and as I reported last week, Villa are active, but PSR's a concern, and right back and a versatile attack is two areas they're looking at. But again, everything will be depending on PSR. So there were the things he really said. And yeah, as he said, Brentford's goalkeeper as well is someone that he complimented, which, considering that Villa might play Robin Olsen tomorrow, the contrast in performance levels are there to be seen.
I always think Flecken looks pretty dodgy. He'll probably have a worldie now. I've said that to him. He's good with his feet. He does still give away the ball with his feet. And sometimes I say he lets in goals that I think he shouldn't let in. I've always found him a little bit suspect, Flecken.
Yeah, I have as well. I think there's certainly been a downgrade since Daryl Raya joined Arsenal.
Well, yeah, naturally, yeah.
Yeah, I think Flecken's. I think he's getting better. I think, especially early on, I watched a few of the games and I thought he was all over the place. But yeah, he's okay. And in terms of injury news, Onana and Ramsey are still out. So it's as you were, I think.
Okay, then. So what does that mean for us? Would you expect to see any changes off the back of Sunday, Jacob?
I keep saying I really, really would like to see Yuri Tillemans as the 10. And I think if Jacob Ramsey's injured, obviously, as we know he is, I'd like to move Morgan Rogers across and then play Tillemans in that 10 role, and then potentially you have Barkley and Kamara. And I think Barkley and Kamara would give you that base. I saw a stat that Tillemans has been involved in 25% of Villa's overall chances, which is 6th or 7th best out of any Premier League player. So his influence in the team is huge. But I would like to see him in a further forward area so he can make the final pass as opposed to the pre-assist, you know?
Would that mean McGinn out the team? You Bailey back in?
McGinn
Can't play
or Bailey
Philogene again, can I?
Philogene had a tough time, didn't he? He looked very timid. That first goal, he gets himself injured, really, doesn't he? Because he kind of dangles his leg out. He's done it a few times. He's got this habit where he just dangles his leg out, thinking that's good. Not only are you going to lose the ball, you're actually going to get get into some harm as well doing that. So I think it's a shootout between Bailey and McGinn. I think you'd probably go with Bailey because, as I say, he's got the pace in behind. But I just think having McGinn in there, Tillemans, Barkley, Kamara, having that base of 4, and then you can have Rodgers as well, who can drift from the left. I think it'll be a really good way of breaking a Brentford's press. But again, Bailey could help with that.
He's kind of got to change something now. It feels like we did a big segment on Villa at Talksport earlier, which I really didn't want to do, in all honesty, but we did it. And I was saying, I actually think game to game normally for Emery, it's obviously always the same setup. There might be some subtle differences in the way they build up in terms of dropping into a back 3 or a back 2 or where the back 3 gets made from. But I actually feel recently, I haven't noticed any kind of subtle changes. It just seems like we're rolling the same thing out week after week at the moment, and it's not going well, and we're not making those kind of subtle changes that he used to make.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. We haven't really seen Kamara drop into that right centre back, have we? And allow Cash to push up a little bit. It's been, like you say, very similar. I think the only tweaks you've seen is Rodgers and McGinn swapping around.
Yeah.
Out of possession, there's been a few different subtle changes. Liverpool, they were a little bit deeper, sat in a mid block. Chelsea, they did the same. But I think you're right. By and large, they've been quite similar. And it just surprised me. I wrote in my piece from Sunday how Villa were at their best actually when they would solve problems in games, think quickly on their feet. And we saw from the first 3-4 minutes, I tweeted out Nicholas Jackson was trying to force Concert, or Martinez into traps, and they almost scored from it about 10 minutes later. So I was really surprised that Villa didn't learn their lessons. And like we say, I haven't seen anything ostensibly that Emery's changed game to game.
Yeah, I mentioned yesterday in the pod with Greg, you might have seen this better than me because you were in the press box, and the press box is quite low down at Stamford Bridge, if it's where I think it is. And a little bit of a harmony problem at the moment. I noticed the substitutes, and Greg kind of poo-pooed this a little bit yesterday when I brought it up. A lot of visible frustration, a lot of substitutes throwing their arms up in the air at what they were seeing on the pitch. Little chats. Buendia looked cross, Bailey looked cross. Is this the first time we're kind of seeing a little bit of a fracture at Villa? I don't want to make up things that aren't there. This is why I'm asking you, but it's something I definitely saw on the touchline at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, I know his Buendia wasn't best pleased, but I think it's easy to assume body language, judging by the games. John Duran, for example, against Bologna, kicks the bench, but because Villa won that, everyone just thought it's just him being John. Where if they were losing,
Eddie Days when we last won again.
You could. Yeah, but if they lost that game, you could then say, it's a bit of disharmony. But what I found quite funny, actually, when Leo Bailey was coming on, I was right behind the dugout and I saw McPhee's notes to him. And the only note, there was no notes on the paper. It was just a pen, and he pointed to the front post. And that's where Bailey was supposed to mark. So Bailey comes on. 2 minutes later, Chelsea get a corner. And Bailey's completely somewhere else, and McPhee's screaming at him to get at the front post. So clearly Bailey wasn't listening there. But I don't think there's any disharmony. I've not picked up anything, and it's just one of those things where everyone's kind of mystified why things aren't clicking yet, and especially after the international break and Emery and the coaching staff working so hard. They've not really had any vindication of that hard work, have they? So I think there's natural frustration with players' performances for sure, but to say there's disharmony, I think would be too dramatic yet.
I ask you this question nearly every time you do a preview, but A lot of games coming up, entering a very hectic and busy period. Is this one that John Duran potentially starts?
Right, I keep saying about John Duran. Everyone says about why do you play John Duran? The structure of Villa completely falls away when he plays.
Yeah.
He does it. Also, he doesn't listen when he does come on. There's a few times where he just doesn't listen, and I don't. That's not because of his attitude or anything. He's so obsessed with just scoring goals. He wants to score a goal. He doesn't play for everything else to build up the pressing. So I thought Watkins. He's getting into better positions now. He's not scoring goals. He was really poor against Chelsea, but he's getting into the position. So I'm thinking, can you just keep playing him through this? A bit like what he's done with Bailey. I would still go with Watkins, but I think there's a real conversation to be had about Emi Buendia's standing. I'm not saying to start him, but he is a number 10. You want some creativity. How poor has he been in training that he doesn't even warrant 25, 30 minutes? He's been coming on with 3, 4, 5 minutes to go, and he's not being able to make a change. So if you do want some inspiration, I'd rather look for an attacking midfielder like Buendia than Duran to start straight away, because although it'd be chaotic, and maybe you need chaos against Brentford, they'd like to turn the ball over.
Yeah,
I just think the structure, and Emery constantly keeps talking about control now more than ever, that would be probably a contradictory.
I mean, I was quite worried about Mbeumo and Vissa leading up to this one, and then obviously at the weekend, Kevin Schade scored a hat-trick. The good news is now have an extra player that I'm worried about, whereas it was just 2 before. Now it's 3 in their attack.
Yeah, Schade has been struggling. I know he had that long injury. He was struggling before the weekend, but I remember seeing him in his first couple of games when he was playing Southampton, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. He was playing as this wide left forward, coming inside on the right foot, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And then you've got these 3 players that we've mentioned, and they just all interchange. They can play anywhere across the front line. So versatile. Probably the type of player that Villa wanted in January, truth be told. But they're really quick. They threatening behind, and that absolute workhorses as well. So, and we saw Mbeumo was caused a lot of trouble to Villa last year at Villa Park. So yeah, they will be quite concerning.
In a dream world, that's who I'd quite like to sign. It feels like it's a fairly realistic signing in terms of he would probably come, but Villa aren't going to have the finances for that. But he feels like just the type of player we're missing at the moment. He could play wide right, could play up front if you need to, and could probably also play as a number 10 like Diaby. That feels like the type of player that we don't have now to me.
And he's really intelligent as
he's
well.
So good.
How he presses, his work rate, he can play anywhere, like you say. He's got the leadership qualities as well. I think he'd be a really good addition. But like you say, he'll come at a premium. There's been obviously reports of Liverpool that liking him as well. So yeah, it'll be a struggle.
Got big shoes to fill there. He's been lined up as a Salah's replacement, that's for sure. Let's finish then with a hot/ice cold take. Then Jacob, I'll let you go first. I actually have one this week, but I'll let you go first.
I actually haven't got one yet, so you go first.
Here we go. Breaking news: Villa will concede first, like they always do, but they will win from behind. They'll get the win, unbeaten in 4 against Brentford after they were a little bit of a bogey team. So Villa are going to go behind in the first half, but they're going to come back and win the game, and all's going to be well in the world.
Lovely. I just saw on my head, I think Tyrone Mings will have a part to play tomorrow.
Ooh. Is that inside knowledge that you just dropping in as a...
Absolutely. I have no inside knowledge. I was just thinking this. I said this before the Chelsea game, actually, to some of the other my other colleagues. I just think Tyrone Mings got some part to play. I can't see him not playing until the FA Cup game in January. So, yeah, I think he'll be a really good player. And obviously, Pau Torres as well. His body has had question marks about playing 3 times in a week. And that's why he got rested for a lot of Conference League games, Champions League games previously. So, yeah, I think Tyrone Mings might feature.
AVFC, I presume he's had a few beers and he says we score inside 10 minutes. That would be nice. And then Barry Diablo's had even more beers than AVFC because he's a clean sheet plays. We don't do clean sheets in the league. It's not what we do. Champions League, yes. Premier League, no. Right then, Jacob, thank you ever so much for joining me this evening. Sorry it's ended up being quite a late one. Thank you to those that have joined us live, and thank you to those that will go on to watch and listen as well. On YouTube, if you could subscribe with your post notifications on, that would be absolutely brilliant, and give the video a like as well. If you're listening via audio, then please leave us a review and give us 5 stars on your preferred platform. Anything you can do really helps us appear in places we wouldn't normally appear. So anything you can do around that would be really appreciated. Guess I'll be doing a video on Thursday, possibly on my own, possibly with Jacob, possibly with Dave Reed, possibly with Greg, in reaction to the Brentford game. Please God, if I'm doing it on my own, can they just win? Because I can't take sitting on my own getting upset again like I have done the last few times. I've had to do it on my own. Have a good rest of the evening. I will see you all at Villa Park tomorrow. Thank you very much to Luke Roper as well. And let's finish with a big gigantic up the Villa.